Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of How Did We Not Know That? I'm Nat,
I'm Jack.
and today Jack has a super interesting topic to discuss, a
Yeah.
special episode.
We're doing a special bonus episode chosen by our friends over at Women of HERstory. Women of HERstory is a podcast that focuses on important women in history that often go overlooked, but they do a really good job at bringing those stories to light. So I really encourage you guys to check that out if you're interested. All right, so today's topic is on the Night Witches of World War II. This was specifically chosen by the Women of HERstory podcast. So let's just get right into it. The Night Witches were an all-female 588th Night Bomber Regiment from the Soviet Union. They were so feared and hated by the Nazis that if a German airman could take one of them down, then they were automatically awarded the prestigious Iron Cross Medal, just similar to the Purple Heart for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very high honor for Germans, I believe.
Wow.
So they're very feared. So this is their story. So the Night Witches dropped more than 23,000 tons of bombs on Nazi targets, and in doing so, were a very crucial Soviet asset to winning the war. And for those of you who don't know, the Soviets and the Americans ended up teaming up as well. So this is really cool to hear about the types of regiments inside the Soviet Union's army, because we did end up becoming allies in order to defeat the Nazis for World War II. So the Germans gave them the nickname of Night Witches because of the whooshing noise that their wooden planes made resembled a sweeping broom. So that whooshing noise was the only warning Germans had because the planes were so small that they never used radios, and so they wouldn't show up on any of their radars.
Oh my gosh.
Very stealthy.
It's like
Yeah.
spooky. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And they didn't have lights on the planes. I'll get into it, but their planes were very ill-equipped. So they're just like flying dark basically, and you can't see them. Like no one can see them. They probably can't even see themselves. So,
Like, that does not sound safe.
yeah, it wasn't that safe, but they did a good job. In June 1941, Adolf Hitler launched Operation Barbarossa, which was a massive invasion of the Soviet Union. By the fall of that year, the Germans were successfully pressing on Moscow, which is that the capital of Russia?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's the capital of Russia. Okay, so the Soviets were desperate, but on June 28th, 1942, the Night Witches had their first mission to bomb the headquarters of the invading Nazis, and that was a success. So, going back to the backstory of the Night Witches, they were led by Marina Raskova, who was famous for being the first female navigator in the Soviet Air Force. She had received letters from women across the Soviet Union who wanted to join the World War II effort. Many of them had lost loved ones or had their villages destroyed and wanted to be in combat and fly their own planes. Raskova petitioned to Joseph Stalin, the dictator of the Soviet Union at the time, for an all-female fighting squadron.
Before she sent the letter, women weren't allowed to serve in the army?
Good question. Yes, they were allowed to serve in the army, but they were not allowed to do combat.
Oh, so just like as like medical care and like those.
Yeah,
Not,
like maybe moving supplies around, similar to the Harlem Hellfighters, which was a mini-sode episode we did in season 1. But they weren't doing combat, and a lot of these women wanted to fight. On October 8th, 1941, Stalin gave orders to deploy 3 all-female Air Force units, and the women would not only fly missions and drop bombs, but they would return fire, making the Soviet Union the first nation to officially allow women to engage in combat.
wow. Okay. I did not.
Me neither. That's what they don't tell you about the Soviet Union. So Raskova, who's the leader, quickly started to fill out her teams. From more than 2,000 applications, she selected 400 women for each of the 3 units. Most of them were students ranging in age from 17 to 26. Those selected moved to Engels, which is a small town north of Stalingrad, to begin training at the Engels School of Aviation. So during training, they underwent a highly compressed education and were expected to learn in a few months what it took most soldiers several years to grasp. Each recruit had to train and perform as pilots, navigators, maintenance, and ground crew.
Wow.
Mm. Beyond their steep learning curve, the women faced skepticism from some of the male military personnel who believed they added no value to the combat effort. Which is
Yeah. Oh my God.
not surprising.
Yeah, of course.
There's always some background noise. Yeah, so Raskova did her best to prepare her women for these attitudes, but they still faced sexual harassment, long nights, and grueling conditions. Basically, the men didn't like the little girls going to the front line. That was considered a man's thing. So the military, who were unprepared for women pilots, offered them meager resources. So flyers received hand-me-down uniforms from male soldiers, including oversized boots. So they would have to tear up their bedding and stuff them in their boots to get them to fit.
Oh my God.
Yeah, which I've done before because I ordered the wrong size and they did not have a return policy or exchange policy.
You took your bed linens.
Not bed linens, but like cotton, similar. So I know what these girls are going through. No, just kidding. The military provided them with outdated 1920s crop duster planes that had been used as training vehicles. Crop duster planes are literally the small planes that you carry fertilizer in and you fly over farms and you dust the crops with them. It makes it like a faster process. So they're not meant for combat.
No, not at all. Like they're probably super slow and like not stealthy, not safe. Like
Yeah, they are. That's exactly it. They were made out of plywood with a very thin canvas pulled over them, which provided no protection from the elements. So think about that. You're literally in the atmosphere with no protection from the elements. It's cold in the ozone layer.
that's freezing. I can't even imagine like how scary that is. I'm already so scared. Like I never want to go in like a tiny plane or like a helicopter. Like I hate turbulence and like, oh, it's just so loud and cold. And then you're in a literal like
A war.
yeah, you're fighting in a war in this little like it was made of plywood, you said?
Yeah, it's plywood.
A wooden crop dusting plate with no lights.
Right. They didn't have a lot going for them. But
You have this courage. I can't. Oh my God.
at night, um, especially, the pilots had to endure freezing temperatures, wind, and frostbite. It's cool. In the harsh Soviet winters, the planes were so cold that if you touched them with bare skin, it would rip your skin off.
What the heck? Oh my God. I forgot we're in. So like, oh my God, it's the
Yeah,
winter.
you're in Russia. It's not the Caribbean.
Oh my God. Why would you? Oh my God. How can you? Oh,
Low funds. All right, so due to both the plane's limited weight capacity and the military's limited funds, the pilots also lacked other luxury items their male counterparts enjoyed. So instead of parachutes, which were too heavy to carry, radars, guns, and radios, they were forced to use more rudimentary tools such as rulers, stopwatches, flashlights, pencils, maps, and compasses.
Are you serious?
Yeah, this is like impossible. I don't know how you did this. Like,
Just like my school supply list for like elementary school. Like, okay, you got your ruler, here's your protractor, like go ahead.
like how far off are we? Hold on.
Yeah, like, oh, let me get my protractor out really quick.
Yeah.
They didn't even have parachutes?
Yeah, from my source, they didn't have their parachutes, which is a big yikes.
Oh my
So
God.
basically, hope you land. Yeah. Actually, I don't know if I covered how they dealt with that. I think they just try not to have to jump out of your plane, I guess.
Try
But
not to mess it up.
right, just do your job. So the upside, though, to the aircrafts was that their maximum speed was still slower than the stall speed of Nazi planes, which means that the wooden planes were actually able to maneuver faster than the Nazis. So that made them harder to target. Because it's like if your stall speed is still faster than someone else's turn speed, then you can't like slow down enough to turn, which means that the smaller planes are able to move faster.
Oh my God.
So that was good. However, since there was no defense ammunition in the planes, they would just have to duck whenever the enemy opened fire. So if the plane was hit by a tracer bullet, it would burst into flames because of the wood.
Oh my god.
Mm-hmm.
This is like how they did they all survive? I guess you'll get into it, but I'm
No, they
like,
did not. But they did a good job. But no, not all of them survived. So, because the bombs were so heavy, they would be forced to fly at lower altitudes, making them an easier target for Nazis, which is why they could only fly at night, hence the term night witches, because they couldn't fly high enough. So they were always like very close, like you could easily see them. So they have no choice but to go at night. Um, and then the planes would fly with a pilot in the front and a navigator in the back. They also traveled in packs. And the first planes would go in as bait, which would attract German spotlights. And they needed the German spotlights to help illuminate where the target was, because again, the planes did not have light, which is really smart that they did that. And then the planes would release a flare light to light up the intended target. And then the last plane would idle its engines and glide into the darkness, which created the signature witch's broom sound. Yeah, and then that's when they would strike. That's when they drop their bomb, because you would like, you become quiet and then you just like glide in so they don't know where you are, and then you drop the bomb.
well, that's really clever. Like that's a really smart tactic. Especially,
Right?
okay, how do we make this work? We have literally nothing going for us. Like none of this is gonna be easy, but that's smart.
Super
Plan.
creative.
Who's the one who gets picked as bait? Like that that sounds awful. Like,
Yeah, that
hey,
sucks. Are probably the ones that don't make it. So there were 12 commandments that the night witches followed, some for strategy, but also for empowerment. And the first one was be proud you are a woman. So Marina, the leader who created the night witches, never wanted any of them to apologize for being women or to take pity on themselves for the treatment they were going to receive. I love that. I think that's so great that that was a commandment, because it's true. Why should you be ashamed of like who you are, you know?
yeah.
And they're amazing. So their last flight took place on May 4th, 1945, when the night witches flew within 60 kilometers of Berlin. 3 days later, Germany officially surrendered.
Wow.
So the Germans had two theories about why these women were so successful. The first theory was they were all criminals who were masters at stealing and had been sent to the front line as punishment. Or number two, they had been given special injections that allowed them to see in the night.
Oh my god. They're like, what's it? They're little mutant people.
Yeah, they're like, no way, they're just regular women. Like,
They're like, no, no.
Altogether, the Night Witches flew more than 30,000 missions in total, or about 800 per pilot and navigator. They lost a total of 30 pilots, and 24 of the flyers were awarded the title Hero of the Soviet Union, which is awesome to hear. Then Raskova, the mother of the movement, died on January 4th, 1943, when she was finally sent to the front line, and her plane did not make it back. So she was given the very first state funeral of World War II, and her ashes were buried in the Kremlin.
Kremlin is like, isn't that like their like White House?
Is it? Probably.
Oh hell.
The Kremlin. Oh, it is the Moscow Kremlin. Yeah, it's a fortified complex in the center of Moscow. So despite being the most highly decorated unit in the Soviet Air Force during the war, the Night Witches Regiment was disbanded 6 months after the end of World War II. And when it came to the big Victory Day parade in Moscow, they weren't included because it was decided their planes were too slow. And yeah, that's always, these always end like this, right? Like that was Harlem Hellfighters, same thing. So it's unfortunate, but that's the world. And that's basically the story of the Night Witches. Sorry, it is not a happier ending, but I am very proud to hear about their story and to be able to present this piece of history to you all so that we can remember these amazing women and find strength in their story.
Wow. I can't believe I've never heard of this before. First of all, like this would be an amazing movie plot. Like, or they should make not a plot, but like, they should make a movie out of this. I really, because like whenever I learn about World War II, it's like, oh my God, I think the Soviet Union lost like there were like millions of casualties, like military casualties.
Mm-hmm.
But then, like, so I was always like, oh, dang, like, Soviet Union, their military is not doing well. But then you have, like, this team of women. You said each pilot had, like, around 800 missions. That's
Yeah.
how you do that 800 times. First of all, how do you not, like, okay, first of all, the odds are so tiny that you're going to survive. Like, you do it 800 times and make it, like, now I'm starting to think, like, yeah, maybe they were mutant.
Yeah. No, they did really well because they were like, what, for 1,200 of them and only 30, not, well, I mean, 30 passing away is very sad and that's still a loss, but 30 out of, that's a pretty good given like everything they had to overcome. Most of them did survive, so.
Like, when did the US allow women to, like, fight, like, hold combat positions in the military?
That's
What?
a great question.
'Cause, like,
Yeah, going off of like your earlier point, I feel like the narrative of the US military and army is mostly around men. And I know that a lot of like people always like, oh, for equality, like forget equal pay, like women need to do the draft, which like sure if you want sure like if you want that, but I think that that's a false narrative that you put on everyone that they don't want to serve in the military, because some women do, like for some women it's not like a huge blessing that we don't sign up for the draft. I know like no one wants to die, but you're not guaranteed to die if you serve in the military, you serve in the army, so women always get excluded from that, and a lot of women probably did want to serve during that time.
yeah, that's always so frustrating. I'm like just getting flashbacks to like high school history class, and like they're like, oh, let's debate about like women's rights, and then, oh, you want equal pay, like you don't even get drafted. It's like,
Right, it's like, okay, well, if you draft me, are we going to be paid the same? Because I feel like that's the issue.
first of all, I'd like to have equal rights before
Yeah,
I sacrifice my life. Yeah, I don't know. It's like,
exactly. No, that's literally, they always pull the draft card and it's like, sure, if you want me to register for the draft, let's do it. Like, are you going to pay me the same then?
yeah.
But yeah, so to answer your question, it says that the 1994 rescinding of so in 1988 there was a risk rule, and that rule I think is what prevented women from being able. Oh, it was a combat ban. Wait a second.
Yeah, I feel like it might be recent because they weren't fighting in like Vietnam.
Yeah,
And
it says in 1994, the rescinding of the 1988 risk rule allowed women to serve in all positions except those engaged in direct ground combat roles. Subsequently, women have been able to serve in almost all Air Force and Navy positions since the mid 1990s. Okay, so can they not serve in on the ground combat still?
no, yeah, they can. For sure they
Only
can.
since 2016.
No.
Yes, I'm reading it right here. Women have been training to become Marines for decades, but only since 2016 have they been able to serve in combat roles alongside men.
Huh? How
Are
did
you kidding me?
is that what? Whoa, what?
Because the 1994 rescinding of the risk rule only allowed them to serve in the Air Force or the Navy. They still weren't allowed to serve in on the ground combat.
What?
How did we
Wait,
not know that?
literally 20. I I thought they were like female.
Maybe recently in the past 4 years. That's insane.
That's crazy. I literally did not realize how recent that was.
That's wild. Yeah. I'm
Oh,
looking, who is the highest ranking female military officer? And then it says U.S. Air Force General Lori Robinson is. And she served from 2016 to 2018. That's like 2 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah. They have been allowed in submarines since 2014. Are you kidding me? That's so recent.
That's literally, I had no clue. I thought women could just hold any position, and I thought it was like, but now that I think of it, like, how did I not realize it wasn't recent? Because like, they are not fighting in like Vietnam. They weren't fighting in like the 80s.
Yeah, they're like not allowed actually. It's like a ban.
That's messed
Yeah.
up.
Let me read this. Pentagon Now says, yeah, that's a 2015 article. They literally started the process to open combat jobs to women in January of 2013. Started the process. So it wasn't even done.
Holy moly.
Wow.
I'm like disappointed that I did not know that.
Me too. That's a bit of a bummer for this episode.
Wow, it looks like we got a lot of work to do, and thank you for women who are serving. Thank you to anyone. I shouldn't say thank you to anyone everywhere serving. No.
Thanks to all our veterans, and I'm proud to be an American.
Sorry.
I remember, were you the one that told me that your gym teacher made you watch that like every veteran?
Every Veterans Day is a sight of Marines. I'm proud to be an American.
I love that song. Anyways, yeah, last thing before we go though. Yeah, in 1988 there was a rule called the risk rule, and it excluded women from non-combat units or missions. So they like completely not allowed to be in at all.
Really?
Yeah. Okay, so there you go. If you ever have the debate about women's rights, pull that on them.
Wow. Okay, now I'm like, someone try me. Someone test me.
Say something.
I got my dates lined up. Like, I'm ready.
All right. Well, yeah, that is the Night Witches. Thank you for watching. Be sure to check out our study guides. We work very hard on them at our website, www.hdwnkt.com. And also feel free to follow us on social media at HDWNKT on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok.
TikTok. Oh my god.
Yeah.
If you're watching this on YouTube, like and subscribe. If you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, leave us a 5-star rating and a little comment so then more people can hear about our show.
Yeah.